Hello everybody, it's Dr. Stuart Alan Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very first week of August 2018. And today I have some information about the Middle East, and it's a very interesting one because I had mentioned something about this many years ago. There's an Al-Aqsa preacher named Ikrimah Sabri who claimed that the occupation, which is what they call Israel, is preparing something to harm Al-Aqsa Mosque. And this is according to the Middle East Media Research Institute. Sabri, who is a former Jerusalem Mufti, which is a holy person in the Islamic religion, he said that Israel is conducting unceasing excavations beneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque and are increasing their pace to become more severe. But the truth of the matter is that Palestinians and Jordanians are conducting construction work on the Temple Mount against Israeli law. And so according to this Mufti, he says we must be aware the occupation against what they call Israel may cause an earthquake to destroy Al-Aqsa and may take advantage of natural and unnatural circumstances to realize the plot to destroy Al-Aqsa. There is a network of tunnels down there that reach deep beneath Al-Aqsa. Those tunnels have existed since the time of King Solomon. This is not news. Now, there have been recent earthquakes in the Middle East and Israel especially. And he thinks that the Israelis are conducting some kind of strange tests or experiments to create an earthquake to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque so that they can rebuild the Third Temple of Solomon. But if you know about geology, you know that Israel is located on the East African Rift, which runs through the Jordan Valley and is prone to earthquakes. And there has been recently a wave of earthquakes in Israel, and sooner or later there will be a large quake anyway. And most likely, because Al-Aqsa is precariously built, it will collapse. Now, to Russia. The Russian Federal Security Service, which is called the FSB, formerly known as the KGB, is preventing millions of Russians from going abroad. And this is called, the officers called it Nevyezhnya, which means that there's no foreign travel allowed. And it was announced this year of stricter border controls for those who want to leave the country because of, quote, changed geopolitical situations, unquote. Several million Russians currently are banned, specifically from travel to the United States, and more than 2 million cannot leave the country at all. Now, the Kremlin would ban travel for millions of personnel from the army, the police, and anyone who might have access to secret information. Well, I can understand that, especially they're calling this a replay of former Soviet rules and regulations. But as you'll see as I get to the end, most of the state personnel have voluntarily agreed to limit travel after ministries gave orders to restrict travel in order to avoid provocations against state employees. And as you know, thanks to the Western media, Russians have gotten a very bad reputation. And so it's actually dangerous for them to go to certain countries. In May, more Russians than ever, 2.3 million people ended up on a stop list because of the alleged unpaid financial debts to the state. Usually, so basically, if Russians owe a huge amount of money and they want to flee the country so they don't have to pay it, they're not allowed to. I can understand that. More than 70% of Russians don't even have a travel document to go abroad, but the elite do. And according to some of the opposition groups that have been staging rallies, etc., they say, and this is a quote, on all the TV screens, We hear that Europe is rotting. It is. That America is shit. It is. But our authorities sent their children there, built palaces, and spend their vacations in the West. And that's also true. So everybody has a little bit of truth in there. Yes? Most of the modern Russian elite keep only a few clothes and passports in Russia. They're ready to take off. They fear that the West will keep them locked out. The West's Iron Curtain would be the most effective tool against Putin's, what they call, kleptocracy. I don't even know what that means, do you?
Well, klepto usually means to steal.
Yeah, well, this is just a very big propaganda article. And by the way, when I read this, I checked with my people in Russia. And according to them, it's old news. There's nothing new. Nothing has changed since 1917. So this is over 100 years old information. So why is there Western media now saying this? It's just another, this to Russia. A little bit further south of Russia, we will look now at Turkey. And Turkey was making retaliatory measures against the United States after the U.S. put sanctions on 2 Turkish ministers in one of the biggest crises between the NATO allies in recent years. Tensions have soared over Turkey's detention on terror charges of American pastor Andrew Brunson, who was first held in October 2016 and was moved to house arrest last week. The sanctions that the U.S. did are targeting Justice Minister Abdulhamid Gül and Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu, freezing their property or assets on U.S. soil that they may hold, and barring U.S. citizens from doing business with them. Now, U.S. White House spokeswoman Sarah Sanders said that they played leading roles in the arrest and detention of Pastor Brunson. So it's like because they helped arrest him, so they're being punished in the United States. And the standoff appears to be one of the most serious crises between Turkey and the United States in modern history. The worst since 1974 Turkish invasion of Cyprus. Can you believe it's been 44 years since they've been? And of course the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. They're calling this a historic rupture, whatever that means. And that they're calling it a transformation under Erdogan, which has seen Turkey become more oriented towards Muslim Middle Eastern extremism. And according to sources in Ankara, quote, the pain of the economic burden, which is really costing Turkey, Erdogan might seek a graceful exit from the crisis. The sanctions have rattled financial markets, with the Turkish lira hitting 5 to the dollar for the first time in history. It's a good thing we didn't keep any of those.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to keep them, and somebody said, yeah, no, trade them in. U.S. media reported that this was a deal with Turkey to free Brunson after Washington's ally Israel released a Turkish woman who was held on terror charges, but the Turkish officials have said that's not true. Now, as I've stated many times before, Erdogan wants to position himself as the Muslim world leader, and he has done since we were there this year, we know that he's done a lot for the economy of Turkey and has benefited Turkish citizens, giving them easy transportation prices, free education. So he's did a lot for the people.
Mm-hmm. We had a wonderful time with the people of Turkey.
And believe me, this is a lot of propaganda on Western media, because when you go to Turkey, you don't see any of this, you don't hear it, you don't feel it. They love all people.
And it was a very safe country.
And I felt safer in Istanbul than I did in some other places. Mm-hmm. Now, here's an update. An update is that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said he hoped Americans detained in Turkey would be released in coming days, following a meeting with his Turkish counterpart in Singapore. Isn't that interesting? Singapore has become the center. They met Kim Jong-un there, now the Turkish. What's going on with Singapore? And you know, I used to go there every year to work. So speaking after the meeting, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, I love their names, so interesting to say, he said, of course you can't expect all issues to be resolved in a single meeting, but we have agreed to work together, closely cooperate, and keep the dialogue in the coming period. He also described the talks as very constructive. Now, this Pastor Brunson was accused of helping supporters of Fethullah Gulen, a U.S.-based cleric who Turkish authorities say masterminded the coup attempt in which 250 people were killed. That was, I think, in 2016. And he was also charged with supporting outlawed Kurdish PKK militants. And of course, Gulen denies this. Turkey has been trying to have Gulen extradited from the U.S. for 2 years, and Washington and Ankara are also at odds over the Syrian war, and also the U.S. is upset that Turkey plans to buy missile defenses from Russia instead of U.S. But you may recall a meeting we had with a Turkish person in Istanbul who said that the Kurdish people actually are quite free. They own all the major businesses, they're very political, and there's no problem with them. So
that's why you have to go to places to find out what's going on, because
Exactly.
the news has got its whole different spin.
Especially the Western media, Europe and US, they spin all kinds of bizarro things that aren't true. Now, especially CNN. CNN and BBC, I wouldn't listen to them anymore. I have to, because I have to know what they're saying. Now, here's a very, very mysterious story, which I found quite fascinating, and that is the U.S. Air Force failed to report a major, they call Meteor explosion near a military base in Greenland earlier this summer. Now, this report actually is contradictory, as you will hear. The explosion contained 2.1 kilotons of force and occurred just above an early warning radar at the Tula Air Force Base in, it says, June. Remember this now. It might have been mistaken by some as a Russian first strike. Why would the Russians attack freaking Greenland?
Well,
Okay,
it's a Danish country, which a lot of people
well, it
don't
belongs
realize.
to Greenland,
Right.
and the U.S. base is there. But if the Russians was going to attack, they would attack. Yeah, London, Washington, maybe Tokyo, Tula. I don't think so. Now, when contacted, well, actually before all that, a U.S. Air Force did not release a statement regarding the meteor or even tweet about the phenomenon. And when contacted for comment, they said, "We're not providing any comment on that, except that it didn't impact operations at Tula." Well, that covers everything, doesn't it? The Tula Air Force Base public news site includes no information, including the meteor whatsoever, along with all web domains associated with the base. Still, the incident was confirmed by NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which showed an object traveling nearly 24.4 kilometers per second over Tula in, get this, the 25th of July. All right. So this part says June, and now it says July. Were there two incidences, perhaps? It remains unclear why the Air Force did not release a statement regarding the meteor. Maybe it wasn't a meteor. And it suggests that the Air Force Base was, well, there are claims that suggest the Air Force Base was destroyed by the meteor.
We wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, we were in, what year were we in Greenland? 2013.
It's been a while.
Well, it sounds like an attack to me, but by whom? Aliens, Kuiper Belt, Fourth Reich. Tula Air Force Base monitors alien actions from the North Pole to the North Atlantic, that whole strip. I remember in Iceland, we were told, again, 2013, there was a secret base in Greenland where the soldiers or the people there would come to Iceland for their
R&R.
thank you, and they would never discuss what they did. But we also know that in the Snæfellsjökull Peninsula, we were told, is the largest alien base in the North Atlantic, monitored by both the U.S. and Britain. So perhaps the aliens said, they're not amused.
I don't know. Lots of interesting things to think about.
Correct.
All right, so I have just a couple of interesting stories for you this week.
Only a couple.
Only a couple. Now, I keep telling you about how the word Nazi is continually in the news.
Yes.
This time, last week, Donald Trump Jr. claimed that the Democratic National Committee's platform in the present day is similar to the Nazi platform of the 30s.
Aha.
He was speaking at the premiere of a new film called Death of a Nation, Plantation Politics and the Making of the Democratic Party. He contended that the left is unfairly labeling the right as fascists and Nazis.
The left is labeling the right.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
He said, you see the Nazi platform from the early 30s, and you can look at it compared to the Democratic National Platform of today. You're saying, man, these things are awfully similar to a point where it's actually scary. It's the exact opposite of what you've been told. However, he did not get into the specific in terms of what he meant regarding his comments, but apparently the film had convinced Trump Jr. that present-day Democrats and the Nazi Party in the lead-up to World War II and the Holocaust are quite similar.
You think so?
Now, what's interesting is that Democrats are saying that the Republicans have a Nazi platform.
Of course.
Because I reported for many, many months about how Trump is always being compared to Hitler. So, we have one side calling, they're each calling each other the same thing.
It's hardly anything like that.
But the point is that that word Nazi is...
I'll change it to Nazi.
Maybe. So I thought that was interesting. And I have a very interesting Israel story as well.
Ooh.
This is called Messiah-Mania.
Ooh.
Has reached a fever pitch in Israel with a prominent rabbi saying that the prophesied Redeemer was actually born a week ago.
No, he's only a baby.
While a group promoting the rebuilding of the temple released a new TV spot saying the time has arrived. And in addition,
Well,
a group of Muslims clashed with Israeli police on the Temple Mount.
but that matches my story about
Yes.
them destroying Al-Aqsa.
Yep. And said a statement by a well-respected Israeli rabbi, I'll let you read the name,
Chaim Kanievsky.
a leading authority in Haredi Jewish society, stated unequivocally that the Messiah was born June 21.
July 21.
I'm sorry, July 21. June's in my head from your story. He is hailed as one of the leading rabbis of his generation, and he wrote a book called A Comforting Discourse that claims the Messiah is alive today, and when Israel merits it, he will immediately reveal himself.
Okay, I'm doing it right now. It's me.
He says the Messiah actually exists and lives amongst us. He passes from one body to another in each generation.
I'm going to discuss this in September class.
Okay. He also wrote that we are seeing all of the conditions described in the Talmud appear before us. It is for this reason that we anticipate the appearance of the Messiah at any moment, God willing.
Here I am.
Now, at the same time, the Temple Institute in Israel, which is a group of scholars and activists who promote the rebuilding of the temple, released this TV spot I mentioned earlier, designed to stimulate debate about whether it is time to follow the Bible's commandments on the holy site.
Okay.
Now listen to this one. The Temple Institute considers it of primary importance to educate about the great significance of Mount Moriah,
Oh, that's your name.
or Moriah, Moria,
Moria.
the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the only site in the world that is considered holy by the Jewish people, and the only site in the world which God chose to rest his presence through the establishment of the Holy Temple.
I'm going to talk about that in September too.
Okay. And as you probably realize, last week marked the longest lunar eclipse of the century that appeared in the Jewish state, with one rabbi labeling it an omen for Israel. Okay?
Well, omen means a bad thing, isn't it?
No, it just says something's, well, it means something's going to happen, but they explain that as this may be a warning specifically for Israel and a potential war from the east.
Uh-oh.
In today's context, that might be Iran.
Well, duh.
Now, this is also an interesting tidbit that ties into all of this, that Israel reached another milestone which contributes to the Messiah-Mania, because now there are more Jews in the world today residing in Israel.
That's right.
They surpassed the U.S. and other countries. They now have 6.6 million Jews, and which reminded me of 666, but this is just 6.6, so I thought that was rather interesting. And according to ramification in Jewish law, This demographic fact requires that Jews reinstate biblical commandments that have not been seen in 2 millennia, and bringing redemption one rather significant step closer. Now, the immigration minister is the one who reported to the Knesset that now Israel has the world's largest population.
Well, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
And because of this, having a majority of Jews in Israel, then they create different Torah law, which requires Jews to perform certain Torah commandments, which I just said that they have not had to perform in 2,000 years. This was from Rabbi Hillel Weiss, who is a spokesman for the Sanhedrin. He explained that the condition of a majority of Jews in Israel was anticipated in prophecy as the final return of the Jews to Israel. It is referred to as the third inheritance of the land, the first being by Joshua, the second after the Babylonian exile. Now, this also means that this return will usher in the building of the third temple, the return of the Davidic dynasty, and the Messianic era.
Sounds exciting.
And that Rabbi Weiss continues to say this is not something that will just happen. The Jews return to Israel in order to pave the way for the Messiah. So,
and I'm ready whenever they call me.
I thought that was a pretty big story. And again, speaking of you probably heard about the famous Golem narrative, which was done by, in the 16th century, rabbi in Prague, right? It's kind of a famous story. You can look that one up. But anyway, for those of you who don't know, they call it Jewish folklore, but a lot of people say this really happened.
Yeah, I went to the cemetery in Prague where the golem is buried.
Yeah, where supposedly it's made out of clay, a human form, and then it's controlled by a rabbi who puts
the thing in
with certain words, certain holy words in it. So, with this in mind, now you want to remember the Lord of the Rings character Golem, which to me was this based on this Jewish tale. Now, in Quebec's Gaspé Peninsula, there was a film by a family who watched a golem-like monster creeping through the forest as the family watched from their car.
Yeah, I saw that.
They claim, well, it showed it, and it was a little fuzzy film, but it was still interesting. It says this strange apparition walks on its hind legs, stands at about 6 feet tall, stoops over with its shoulders arched, and they called it a faceless, human-like creature that appeared to be stalking a moose grazing by the roadside.
Yeah, I saw the moose.
So, in my opinion, it's another way to put forward this word golem. So, continue to watch the golem, because it was in Lord of the Rings, it was in this...
Yeah, but Gaspé Peninsula is really a strange place anyway.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of strange places.
I always thought something weird was going on there.
Well, we'll see what happens. But anyway, so that's kind of the end of my stories for today. But
you're kidding.
I thought that was kind of interesting information. So things to watch. Nazis, golems.
Nazis and Nazis.
And the Messiah-Mania in Israel.
Right, which really is about me.
Lots of interesting things going on. So we have lots of things going on here as well. Our September class is right around the corner.
Yeah, actually getting booked up, isn't it?
It is. And if you have interest in preparing yourself for the next phase of our research, you might want to read Montauk, Alien Connection, Blue Blood, True Blood. This is the galactic story of conflict and creation. Then we have True World History, Humanity Saga. So everything we are going to be talking about is going to be building on these 3 books, amongst other research that we've reported. But this is a really good base for you to start. Okay, and then we have the beginning of my webinars, which is going to be based on my affirmations book for self-change.
That's just next month, isn't it?
Yeah, the end right after our September class. So there's lots of information in here. This is a great personal reference book. We had just finished. It took us 3 years to get through Decoding Your Life. So
very slow reader.
We just finished this. The webinars are available for free of Decoding Your Life on the members side of our website, less than $1 a day.
Correct.
And anyway, this is a really good deal we have going on for especially our members who want to join this particular webinar. There are only 20 spaces, and I think they're about half filled. So get your name on the list.
I could take up the rest of them.
You might. What else do we have? Oh, in Tampa. You'll be going to Tampa soon. You'll be talking about the Templars, I think, there.
Yes, and there may be some very interesting guests coming.
Yeah, and you're going to be also studying more information on healing and giving some information out. So Hyperspace Plus, if you don't have that one. Stuart says it's just a great all-around book. Hyperspace Helper, which is very, very beginning basic exercises. And, of course, this one's really shooting off the shelf.
Yeah, people like that
Healing
one.
Archetypes and Symbols, a lot of color things. Maybe it's the color they like, I don't know. But I can get all 4 of these books in one mailing envelope. And I just had a woman from overseas talking about the price and to get your books overseas. I'm sorry, that's the post office. And yes, it's horribly expensive. We have them on Kindle. A lot of people get them there first.
It might be better for them to pay for me to bring it on.
Yeah, personally.
Yeah.
And we have, of course, our children's series, which a lot of people who do not speak English as a first language,
Like myself,
they get these books for themselves. So we have one on protection, we have one on auras, we have one on chakras, and we have one on archetypes.
That's the picture of me.
Yeah, and they're really lovely books. They have lots of color, if you like color. So they're great, great books, and they explain the concepts excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with the way those turned out. And then what do we have going on?
The other thing was the my conference, not my conference, but I'm a speaker at the Stargate to the Cosmos conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the last weekend in October.
All right, so we have lots of things going on. And then, of course, our January class round the bend after that. So we have people signed up for that already. So anyway, lots of things going on. So we appreciate your comments, especially your kind comments.
Only kind ones.
Yes, and you know what? You're welcome to disagree with what we have to say. Again, we just ask that you do it respectfully. So I've got sometimes really nice comments that come through, and then they'll start calling people names and even other people names.
It's
we've got to trash
so low
that.
level. So low level. Don't do that, people.
No, grow up.
And if you disagree with me, there are other restaurants to go to.
That's right. So like, subscribe, comment, and share, please. And please like our Facebook pages. And join our website for membership. Always great daily work going on there. We are talking about removing anger issues as one of the topics.
I don't have any at all.
And I'm also, on my blog this month, we're doing a blog on sexual deprogramming. So you want to get the true reality of sexuality in 13 Q'd, because that will help you with the work we're doing.
All right.
All right.
So thanks. I hope you're cooling off wherever you are if there's a heat wave, which, by the way, it's so interesting to me on CNN. It said, oh, the Bermuda Triangle has been solved. It's rogue waves that knock the ships down. Okay, what about the airplanes?
That was some other thing I saw recently.
Come up with another story for that one, Pete.
That they said it was solved.
NBC and CNN. Yeah, really brilliant.
Right.
That's all for now. See you later.
Bye.